A very good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to this session. My name is Lynn Kwok, and I will be facilitating today's conversation. It's a great honor to be here. The title of today's session is Japan in the World, and we will be touching in the session on the interconnectedness between the Indo-Pacific and the Euro-Atlantic, and the shared security challenges as well as opportunities. Now, Japan in recent years has been at the forefront of arguing that security in the Euro-Atlantic and Asia cannot be viewed independently of each other. And former Prime Minister Fumio Kishida he famously warned that developments in Europe carried implications for the Indo-Pacific, underscoring the growing strategic links between the two theaters. Japan is now navigating one of the most consequential security transitions of the post-war era. By next month, I understand defense spending is set to reach 2% of GDP, or at least later this year, it's set to reach 2% of GDP, 2 years ahead of schedule. And this is going to be the most significant expansion of Japan's military budget in decades. The government is also reviewing its core national security documents, comprising the National Security Strategy, the National Defense Strategy, as well as the Defense Build-Up Program, signaling that the transformation in Japan is not just fiscal, but also strategic. And of course, overseeing this entire transition is Minister Shinjiro Koizumi. Thank you. He took office in October last year, and he's been managing both the increase in defense spending as well as the reassessment of Japan's strategic framework. Minister, you arrived in Munich under very happy circumstances. There was a decisive national election victory last week. Your ruling coalition gained a super majority that provides, I believe, the political space to implement some of these reforms. Congratulations, Minister, and thank you very much for joining us. The floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Shinjiro Koizumi, Minister of Defense of Japan. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for the invitation to the Munich Security Conference, which is one of the most prestigious and influential platforms for international security. In Japan, as you said, the election was held on Sunday, which turned out to be a historic victory for a ruling party. Even during the 2-week election campaign period, Japan-UK summit meeting was held in Japan, where both leaders concurred that the security of the Indo-Pacific and the Euro-Atlantic is inseparable. On a personal note, this is my first time participating in Munich Security Conference. I was born and raised in Yokosuka, a town that embodies the indivisible nature of the Indo-Pacific and Euro-Atlantic security. Indeed, it was in Yokosuka last year where President Trump and Prime Minister Takaichi stood together aboard a U.S. aircraft carrier to address the world. In addition, ships of like-minded countries in Europe have frequently visited Yokosuka, including Germany, France, Netherlands, Spain, and Norway. Recently, from August to September last year, the UK carrier strike group led by HMS Prince of Wales also made a port call. As a native of Yokosuka, my presence here at the Munich Security Council Conference to deliver a speech as Minister of Defense is a testament to the fact that the security of both regions is inseparable. I would like to once again express my gratitude to everyone involved in the MSC for the precious opportunity. Today, I would like to focus on 3 points. First, Japan's initiatives in security policy. Second, our security concerns and Japan's fundamental stance. And third, further strengthening of cooperation with ally and like-minded countries. First, Japan's efforts in security policy. The rule of law, freedom of navigation, respect for sovereignty. Over the 80 years since the Second World War, the very foundations that have underpinned the international order are being tested by real-world actions. This is the situation we are now facing. Russia's aggression against Ukraine in 2022 demonstrated that the crisis in one region is directly linked to global security. In other words, as I mentioned earlier, the crucial point here is that the security of the Indo-Pacific and the Euro-Atlantic is indivisible. Attempts to unilaterally change the status quo by force must never be tolerated. That is why Japan does not view Ukraine as a distant European problem. Countries surrounding Japan continue opaque military buildup, and the regional military balance has been greatly and rapidly evolving. In the East and the South China Seas, attempts to change the status quo by force persist. In the Western and the Southern Pacific, provocative military activities are intensifying. Based on this recognition, the Takaichi administration is squarely addressing measures to ensure the security of our country. First and foremost, Japan itself will become stronger. We are committed to sustaining our efforts to fundamentally reinforce our defense capabilities and increase our defense spending. With last year's supplementary budget, we achieved a level of defense spending at 2% of GDP ahead of the original schedule. Immediately after taking office last October, Prime Minister Takaichi directed an accelerated revision of Japan's national security strategy. Under her leadership, we will revise it within this year. We will also continue to respond to any crisis in a resolute and composed manner. In doing so, strengthening the defense production and technological base, which we deem as defense capability itself, is also indispensable. We need to work closely with industry and across the government to establish resilient supply chains, flexible production systems, and incorporate advanced civilian technologies. The use of outer space is the very foundation of our modern lives. The MOD is rapidly strengthening our defense capabilities in the space domain. In fiscal year 2026, Japan will rename our Air Self-Defense Force to Japan Aerospace Self-Defense Force. Second, our security concerns and Japan's fundamental stance. Today, the Indo-Pacific region faces a crisis. One of them is the weaponization of everything. The weaponization of economy, technology, resources, information, and cyberspace. The boundary between peacetime and contingency, between military and non-military, between truth and fake news, these are no longer clearly visible. We are living in an era of uncertainty, where anything can happen. The intentions of aggressors can hardly be predicted by those of us living in democracy. Aggressors may also misjudge the strength of our resolve. Anything could happen tomorrow. I believe you share this sense of crisis. We must confront this reality head-on and ensure peace and stability in the region. Let me be clear. Japan keeps the door to dialogue open at all times, even when fundamental differences in stance exist. Indeed, precisely because of these differences, we maintain close communication and mutual exchanges. Together with like-minded partners, Japan will fulfill its responsibilities to maintain an international order free from aggression. Japan seeks to be a partner that contributes to the peace and the stability of the international community through security cooperation, one that spans the entire globe. Third, further strengthening of cooperation with our ally and like-minded countries. First, we will further strengthen the Japan-US alliance. Last month, I visited Washington, D.C. to hold a Japan-US Defense Ministerial meeting. the fourth meeting with Secretary Hegseth in the short period of time since my appointment. We confirmed that the Japan-US alliance remains unwavering and that both countries are working in lockstep. The Japan-US alliance has evolved to contribute to stabilizing the global security environment. For example, even at US AFRICOM here in Germany, a self-defense forces personnel is dispatched to facilitate coordination between the US forces and the Japan self-defense forces. Next, we will spread a multi-layered network of interconnectivity across the entire world, starting from the Indo-Pacific with the partners of the Indo-Pacific and all the like-minded nations, including our partners here in Europe as well. We will enhance connectivity and generate synergies not only in training and operations, but also across equipment and industrial bases. Just last month, the annual Japanese paratroopers exercise, New Year's Jump, hosted by Ground Self-Defense Force, had included 14 nations of ally and like-minded countries. In addition to strengthening relations with ally and like-minded countries, Japan-NATO relationship is making steady progress as demonstrated by the deepening engagement of the IP4, Japan, ROK, Australia, and New Zealand, through invitations to NATO Defense Ministerial meeting. My personal relationship with Secretary General Rutte, with whom I met today, is also unprecedented, having met for 3 months in a row since December of last year. We will continue to closely cooperate with each other as the security of the Euro-Atlantic and the Indo-Pacific is inseparable. Our cooperation is also moving beyond into the realm of actual operations. I would like to highlight an example of a joint response to global challenges. Last November, when pirates boarded a private tanker off the coast of Somalia, Japanese Self-Defense Forces Force P3C rushed to the scene. Based on from the intelligence provided by the SDF, the maritime forces of the EU and others safely rescued the crew, and the hijacking attempt was thwarted. In terms of defense equipment cooperation, the next generation fighter is being developed through a partnership between Japan, UK, and Italy. This global combat air program is designed by its very nature with our ally and like-minded countries in mind. As the name Global suggests, it reflects our commitment to future interoperability with partners across the globe, including here in Europe. Against this backdrop, the Japanese government is currently working on the review of so-called 5 categories rule in the transfer of defense equipment with a view to expanding its scope. In 2007, Japan's then Prime Minister Abe delivered a speech titled Confluence of the Two Seas in the Indian Parliament. In the speech, he declared that the Pacific and the Indian Ocean are now bringing about a dynamic coupling as seas of freedom and prosperity. Today, these two seas have expanded to 3, the Pacific, the Indian, and the Atlantic Oceans. Dear friends, as the Munich Rule outlines, let us strive to engage and interact between Japan and Europe. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Minister Koizumi. We don't have very much time, so let's jump straight into it. I don't believe I heard you mention China directly, yet China is central to the strategic landscape. Tensions between Japan and China have been fraught, to say the least, in recent times. How might Japan seek to manage this relationship moving forward?
Thank you very much. As far as I feel from the audiences, your question is very welcomed by the audiences. Actually, last year I met my Chinese counterpart, Minister Don Jun, in Malaysia when we had a meeting with ASEAN countries. It's called ADMM+. Even though we have differences and we have disagreements, Japan's stance is very clear. We are always open to the dialogue. So we are not going to shut down any channels, regardless of differences. So I would like to send this message to the Chinese side that we are always welcome to the dialogue.
Fantastic. That's reassuring. Of course, apart from dialogue, central to ensuring peace and stability in the region, and Japan understands this more than anyone else, is deterrence and working together with allies and partners. Let's turn now very quickly to the US-Japan alliance. Here in Europe, I think it's fair to say that there is some concern over US security commitment. The United States has questioned its commitment to Europe, not least in the last Munich Security Conference. It's also, in the interim, threatened to take Greenland. Is Japan worried about the credibility of the US-Japan alliance? I know you talked about meeting your counterpart in the United States, but there is a lot at stake for Japan, and is it in its upcoming national defense security review, is it reviewing its position to factor in allies, and also in particular, is it reviewing its position on nuclear policy?
Thank you very much. Going back to your first point on the relationship between US and its allies, including Japan and also European countries. I just had a meeting with Secretary General Rutte today, and I know yesterday there was a very important meeting between NATO defense ministers, including US participant. I was very happy to hear that the atmosphere and the discussion was very positive between the American side and the European side, because from Japanese point of view, if there is a tension between the US and Europe and NATO, who is happy with this? We should think about this. So, as I keep saying that Japan-US alliance is unwavering, it's very strong. Our Prime Minister Takaichi going to visit Washington, D.C. next month. So, yeah, I think it's always important to keep closely communicate with not just between Japan and the US, but also with NATO. That's why we attended NATO ministerial meeting under the IP4. And also, this is my presence here at Munich Security Conference is also a message to the European friends that Indo-Pacific and Euro-Atlantic is inseparable. For example, can I add one thing? For example, North Korean soldiers have been sent. More than 10,000 soldiers have been sent to Russia. Russia have sent, North Korean soldiers to Ukraine. Then they are learning new way of fighting with drones, AI, and cyberspace, and with all domains, with conventional weapons. Then getting back to North Korea, then we need to think about what they are using for and who they are using against. So that's why I said Ukraine is not a distant problem.
So you've been exceedingly clear, crystal clear about how important both regions are to each other. And
Yes.
yet, in the recent U.S. national defense strategy, the United States says that it would be clear with its European allies that their efforts and resources are best focused on Europe. That's the U.S. view. What does Japan think of the division of labor between theaters, and does Europe play an important role in Asia?
Yes, it's always important to strengthen by ourselves. That's why I send a message that Japan is going to strengthen our defense policy itself. So it's very natural for everybody, based on the new security environment around the world, which is very severe and serious. We need more spending. We need more investment, including defense industries. And so, co-production issue is one of the issues between Japan and the U.S. And we could do something with Europe too. That's why I mentioned our project for the new fighter jet, GCAP, with Japan, Italy, and the UK. This is what we are now thinking about. And going back to your second point on the last questions on our new strategy, we need to find out a new Japanese way of confronting a new type of warfare with drones and cyberspace and also AI. It's not just a copy of what we are seeing from the Ukraine and Russian battlefield, because we are a maritime country. So we need to find by ourselves what's the best way for Japan to do.
So just on the final question, and I believe this is very close to your heart, the landslide victory in Japan. How was security policy communicated and presented to the Japanese public? And can one take away from this election a strong mandate for some of the defense changes that are ahead of Japan? Or should we read it more as perhaps a mandate for your Prime Minister's economic policies? Because I understand that voters had at the top of their concern cost of living issues as well as other bread and butter economic issues.
Yeah, of course, for the election, economic policies and social security policies the top high priorities for the general public. But in this election in Japan, I kept talking about security policies. We need to strengthen, investment to the defense industry. We need to revise the security documents. We need to improve the treatments to the self-defense force personnel, including their families. People welcomed. That's why this result of the election was very powerful, and it gave me a courage to push our security policy. But of course, we are living in a democracy. So with a powerful message from the public, but also we need to be very, very, careful to explain why we need to strengthen our security policy by explaining what we are seeing around us. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Minister, for sharing your insights. Please join me in thanking the Minister. I feel it was far too short, but thank you.
Thank you very much.
はい、皆さん、長いスピーチお疲れ様でした。質疑応答はある程度想定して準備をしていたでしょうが、カンペなしであれだけ流暢に受け答えができるのは非常に能力が高いですよね。私はおっさんですが、惚れそうになってしまいました。いや、もう惚れてますね。ただ、このスピーチは、進次郎かっこいいだけではなく、非常に重要なメッセージがあったと思います。特に北朝鮮が仕掛けてくるんじゃないかという懸念ですね。おそらく政府筋は何かしら掴んでるんだと思いますが、そうであれば改憲や安全保障をあれほど急いでるのも納得できますね。もしかしたら事態は私たちが考えているより進んでいるのかもしれません。そしてみんな大好き中国の王毅外相もディスカッションでこのように話してました。
Not long ago this sitting, Japanese Prime Minister said publicly that a Taiwan contingency amounts to a survival threatening situation that could trigger the use of collective self-defense. So this is the first time in 80 years that a Japanese prime minister has uttered such words. It directly violates China's territorial sovereignty, and it directly challenges the fact that Taiwan has been returned to China. It completely violates Japan's commitment to China. Could China possibly accept this provocation? No way. No Chinese can accept it. Here, we are in Europe, in Germany. I like to make a comparison. After the Second World War, Germany conducted a thorough reckoning with Nazi crimes and passing laws to ban all the speech and actions promoting Nazi ideology. But Japan still pays homage to the Class A war criminals, and they are enshrined as so-called heroic spirits. So this means that Japan has lingering ambitions for invasion and colonialism of Taiwan, and the ghost of militarism are still haunting the country. The lessons are not far behind us. Back then, Japan also cited the so-called survival threatening situation to launch its war of aggression against China, and also the Pearl Harbor. If Japan doesn't truly repent on its wrongdoing, history will only repeat itself. This is the lesson we should learn. So I think all the conscious people should be alert and stay sharp. The Japanese people should not let the far-right extremists fool and drag them along. And every country that values peace should shout this loud and clear at Japan right now. If you go back down that old road, it will be a dead end. If you try gambling again, the loss will be faster and more devastating.
強烈なスピーチですよね。あまりにも曲解し、まるで自分たちの行ってきたことが、またこれから行うことが正しいと言わんばかりの言い分です。そして日本が軍国主義に戻ろうとしているような印象操作も行っています。3月には日米首脳会談があり、4月には米中首脳会談があります。いきなり事態が急転直下することはないと思いますが、要注目ですね。今回の動画は以上です。バイバイ。